Started, we just wanted to take a quick second to introduce you to the podcast sponsor for this week, EBIS UK.
Are you a maker looking to sell your creations across the country or internationally? Shipping can be a complex process, but there is a solution.
And EBIS is that solution. EBIS are a specialist art handling and shipping company, and their whole goal is to simplify shipping and provide you, the maker, with complete peace of mind.
Yeah, EBIS take care of everything from pickup to professional packing and accurate documentation. They handle customs and regulations, so you don't have to.
With EBIS, you can trust their experienced team to ensure smooth and secure delivery. They offer tailored solutions, and their primary goal is simply to make shipping simple.
You can visit ebis.co.uk today and start your stress-free shipping journey with EBIS, your trusted partner in shipping.
My name is Gillian Stewart.
Gillian Stewart, bookbinder, box maker, magnet enthusiast.
Yeah, all those things. Paper fondler. Yeah.
I love that.
That's me. Do you want me to do a wee...
I was going to ask the
pitch?
first question, which is, who is Gillian Stewart?
Gillian Stewart is a bookbinder.
Magnet enthusiast.
Magnet enthusiast, box maker. I'm from a wee village on the west coast called Ellen. And then I moved to Glasgow to go to Glasgow School of Art, where I studied illustration. And then towards the end of my degree, got really into box making and bookbinding. And now I run JUJU Books, which is my bookbinding studio, and have done for 6 years. And it's my dream job.
Wicked.
I know, man. I'm the most surprised of anybody.
6 years, that's a good,
It's a good goal. We said when we started We Are Makers, we'd give it 5 years to see if it worked. We're a year away from that, and I fucking hope it's going to work.
It's working pretty well.
Yeah.
It looks great on the outside, yeah.
Things always do, don't
Exactly,
they? Like,
yeah.
no one knows the true stress underneath it all.
Aye.
Yeah.
There's definitely a whole series that you could do just based on how difficult it is, but that's life. It's good fun. It's good fun, and if nothing else, it's fun. So
We have a mission, and that's really important to us.
yeah. But anyway,
we're
we're
so
boring.
Not at all.
So how did you go from illustration to bookbinding?
Good question. So if you're an illustrator, you quite often have to make like narrative works. You might be telling a story through your illustrations, and often a book is a good carrier for your illustrations. And then I actually got much more interested in making the books than what I was putting in them. So my degree show was 11 books, and some of them fell apart at degree show. I've got a lot better since then. And I think it was after graduation, I illustrated a few books, but mostly faffed about and travelled and worked in pubs and was like, oh my God, what am I going to do with this art degree? I just think it's quite common. And there was a traineeship job going in a bindery in Glasgow. And I just got that. And that was kind of the start of realising that you could do it as a job. I didn't really dare to dream that it could be done as a job until then.
What did you call it there? A bindery?
A bindery.
Is that what it's called?
That's what it's called. I
book
don't actually
binding
like
factory.
that word. Yeah.
That's cool.
A bookbinding studio. But yeah,
Right.
bindery is the proper name, but I don't...
Right.
Something about the word just makes it go, hoo. So yeah, I don't really say I've got a bindery. Technically I do, but I call it studio, man.
Artify it.
Yeah, let's artify it.
Yeah.
So that was how I first started learning how to make books as a job.
And when was that?
That was 2016.
2016.
2016. So it was a course. Yeah, it wasn't a job for me.
Okay. It's good to try these things.
It's good to try these things. So I left after year and a half or something. But I still wanted to make books, and there were no people up in Scotland who were going to hire me to make books. So I kind of ended up with a business by accident, just because that's the only way I was going to get to make the sort of weird arty books that I wanted to.
That feels like a
Well, if you can't
common
find your job,
denominator.
make your job sort of thing.
Yeah. And it's kind of I'm not naturally entrepreneurial or business minded at all. I never thought I was going to run a business.
I don't think many people are though. Business is one of those afterthoughts.
Yeah,
I should.
And I
Business is this big overarching term though, isn't it? It's I do the thing that I enjoy doing and I get paid for it. That is a business. It doesn't have to be a Fortune 500. You don't have to have CEOs, CFOs, CTOs.
Yeah.
You don't need all those acronym
Titles.
names and titles. It's this can still be a business.
Yeah.
It's weird, isn't it?
It is weird. But also I think if anyone was I'm an entrepreneur, I want to start a big business, no one would do a craft business.
Yeah.
It's true.
We had this discussion with someone, didn't we? And someone had, in a I get it and I don't get it at the same time. Someone was like, "Oh, you're just doing this for blah 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 and to make money." I'm like, dude, if I was trying to make money, I wouldn't be publishing a book and doing a podcast.
Oh my god, yeah. Books, yeah.
That's not what I'd be doing. Do you
With
know what I mean?
makers,
Yeah. I would not be finding the nichiest niche and doing
A niche.
a niche within that's something that's so close to dying out.
Yeah,
Publishing, like I
yeah.
wouldn't be doing that, you know. But no, it's still a business, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we do it for other reasons, but also it doesn't mean that we can't also make money at it. So, yeah, that's how I ended up.
So a year and a half there.
Year and a half there, and then I got I kind of faffed around and got a job in a cafe, and then I started, so that time I wasn't bookbinding. I was like, oh, I really want to still be bookbinding. I'm sad I can't do that anymore. I guess I'll just try and be an illustrator, as if that's an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
And I still kept thinking about bookbinding, and I started looking at like courses or ways to learn more. And it's really actually quite hard to learn bookbinding now. There's not like apprenticeships or courses anymore.
Oh, really?
But I ended up talking to a few bookbinders and they encouraged me to keep going. And I ended up with a little studio space. And then I ended up with like a client who happened to be like one of the customers at the coffee shop, who's a really nice photographer called Colin Tennant, legend. And so I had like my first client making books. And then I like did a Princess Trust course.
I did one of those.
Yeah, so when people are going through them. And then I got a scholarship from the Queen Elizabeth Scholarship Trust. I don't know if you know those guys. Yeah, so I got a QEST scholarship. And that was like when my life changed forever. So that's where I like really increased a lot of my skills and sort of, became a lot more confident as a bookbinder and a maker. And the rest is history.
Well, let's unpack that history.
Yeah, I know, I say it like it's nothing. It's like, oh, it's easy, I just did it. And that was Steffi and Steffi.
I just did A, B and C and now I'm here.
Just like that.
So where did you learn, is there many other bookbinding studios and are they all kind of independent?
Tends to be, most bookbinders will work either totally for themselves, a small amount work with libraries or universities. A lot of them used to have binderies where they'd hire bookbinders, but not so much anymore.
Right.
There's a few bigger companies that will hire maybe like 10 people. So there's 1 or 2 in Scotland. There's quite a few more down south and in London. So if you wanted to get hired as a bookbinder, it would probably be in London. But even then, the sort of bookbinding I do, like craft bookbinding, there'll be companies, but there'll be small companies. And a lot of it will be done by hand without a huge amount of machinery.
Right. So it's very much to use the currently overused term, artisanal view of it. It's the sort of craft, hands-on, back to basics, not in a negative way, but back to basics.
Aye. Because the step up from that would be like a commercial print finishers. They would have like machines that would bind books and stuff if you're doing like high quantities. But most people will work for themselves or a small company with runs. I mean, I take runs up to like 150 if it's simple and I have enough time.
Right.
And that's probably like around the number that most of those people might take.
Okay. And what does a custom look like? What is that custom? Is it someone approaching you that's illustrating a book and wants it, or?
It's got a really nice mix. I feel really lucky that I get like interesting jobs. Yeah.
It keeps it different.
Yeah, because I get bored really quickly, so I get a really nice mix of customers. So I tend to work quite a lot with creatives. So might be like a design company that needs like a small batch of something made for one of their brands, or a photographer who needs like a photo book or a print box. Right now I'm doing, when does this come out? I've got a job on that I can't talk about until it's finished, but I'm making 100 books for...
About a week and a half.
Right, okay, I can't say who, but it's my favouriteest big illustrator. So I did 100 books for them.
That's exciting.
It's very exciting. I'm doing a 6 hand-bound, hand-lettered manuscript books that are about A3 size for a calligrapher. Yeah, and then I'm doing an order for a company in the States that I've worked with before called Suntop Editions, who do like special edition sci-fi and horror books. So I'm doing... So I'm doing it's not really sci-fi or horror, but I'm doing Slaughterhouse 5 for them. So that's kind of high-end, sort of larger quantity books I'm doing. How many am I doing?
So the book's the exact same as what they would normally sell, but they're doing like a special edition and you're recovering it and rebinding it.
They have like certain editions, so they'll have like 365, which are sort of machine made, but still to nice high quality. And then they'll have like smaller quantities that sort of go up in quality.
Like collector's edition kind of things. Right, okay.
Seems a quite big market for that in the States as well.
Oh yeah.
A big market for everything in the States.
Yeah. Oh, and there's so
Especially
many like,
books.
there's so many booky people and book collectors. Went and did a residency last year in San Francisco for that reason, because there's so many
because I
book
was
people.
saying to Jack that you did that. We want to talk about it.
Oh my gosh, yes. So I've digressed already. So my clients, I also do a little bit of repair work, and I do a bit of teaching as well. So that's for people who want to learn about bookbinding, or just come and have a nice day making something.
And that's workshops in here.
Workshops in here, yep. Or
Seems really popular with makers. Doing workshops, like a really good way to supplement your income.
Absolutely. If I need to like ever invent some money, I'll just put some workshops on.
Yeah.
But I do enjoy them as well, because I'm working by myself all the time, and it is nice to
do them in here?
have people in. Yeah, so I can only take 6 people before it gets too crowded.
Aye.
I also
It's a good
do.
number.
It is a nice number, and that means I get like enough of my time one-on-one as well.
Right.
I think
I think
bigger
I'd
than
love
that.
to try something like that.
Doing a workshop.
Book it.
Come and make a book.
Yeah, I think I'd quite enjoy that.
I think bookbinding is a really nice skill to know how to do as well. A lot of people get quite excited about it.
It looks quite cathartic from the
That's what
outside.
I was thinking.
Everybody says this. Yeah, I think
You're like, it's no.
when I do it for a job, it's not stressful.
Aye.
But I think
Yeah.
you're absolutely right, though. It is like, I guess like any craft, you can just like get into flow and lose focus on whatever else is going on, and just
Aye.
like get a bit absorbed in the process. Because it does require quite a lot of concentration as well, which is quite nice, I think.
Stop
Yeah.
thinking about everything else. And
Yeah,
that's
you'd be like,
how you're doing.
how the fuck am I going to tie this knot? How is this
Yeah.
working?
Yeah.
You just forget about it.
And it's all like manual, physical. None of it, like, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but what I see, none of it's PC based. It's all
Yeah.
physical. You know, you're doing the measuring, you're doing the cutting. Fair bit of press machinery and stuff around here as well.
chopping
That
and
must be
slicing.
quite nice.
It is quite nice, yeah. And the benefit of doing them in the studio, because I couldn't do them in the studio until I had like a bigger space, and I would take all my gear to like another part of town and hire somewhere. But with like the big equipment here, people can see how like the board chopper works, or we can do some foil blocking and like personalise the books. So you get like the full benefit of having all the gear, all the quality gear. No, I also feel like I've benefited from quite a bit of funding and the generosity of other bookbinders teaching me, and like
Nice.
I know it's really hard to learn bookbinding, so I feel like a bit of a responsibility to pass it on. That sounds like really like virtuous
No,
and like holier than
that's-
thou.
No, it's
Do you
not.
know what I mean?
That's one of the main reasons. It does, yes, but that's one of the main reasons I'm interested in doing this as well, because I'm a firm believer that if you do a craft to a certain level, there is a level you become proficient and professional at that craft, but you also become a custodian of that craft.
Exactly. Like it's not I didn't invent it. I'm just like I hold it for a little while and then like
Yeah, because if you don't, it's
It's a noisy little
yeah, it's quite
hallway.
noisy sometimes. Sorry.
it's all right.
I think someone's moving in today.
what it
And
is?
we're back. Aye, because if you don't, it just goes. Like at
Yeah.
some point that disappears. It's all well and good, you know, writing a blog about how to do it or doing YouTube videos on how to do it. And Florian's a great example of this. You know, he's seen 1,000 videos on how to do
He's an
pottery.
interesting person.
Yeah, he was. He's seen 1,000 videos on how to do pottery, but he shoots them from like every angle to try and best explain it.
They
But
are
even he admits
incredible.
it. Yeah.
I have no idea how. Where does he find time?
You'll hear it in the podcast.
Right. Okay.
Podcast goes out next week.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I think he just finds the time because he just loves it.
Yeah.
Like he
It's
just
part
loves
of his
it.
job though. That's how he
Aye.
gets paid to do the videos.
He does view it as part of his job.
Because he does like
Really
YouTube, doesn't
interesting.
he? Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was it he said? Like 10 to 12 hours. 10 to 12 hours a week on social media. Purely on social media.
Oh, I couldn't possibly be bothered.
I know.
But then when you look at it and you think like that's all his advertising. That's his advertising job. That's the reason why he's so far ahead of literally every other maker when
guess,
it comes
like-
to social media.
Does he make enough? I don't know if you're allowed to put this.
It covers his rent.
That's pretty good.
He told us in the podcast
Yeah,
that
I'd like
the
to know,
social
like-
media side covers his
I'd
rent.
like to know how much, because my partner's trying to, we're thinking we would love to move rurally, and there's always a fear like, well, if you're not in a city, you're going to have enough work. And my partner's like, start a YouTube channel, start a YouTube channel, start a YouTube channel. I'm like, I don't want to.
There
But
is, you
Hey,
know,
we've done a buttload of investigation into it, and obviously we try and release all ours from YouTube, and we're just in a position where we need to do more of it because it's a major factor. Move this way because you're right in front of me. I think you should.
I hate you this time.
Move in front of me.
Aye, because there's a few people doing bookbinding, but I've not seen anything that sort of, not that I'm doing anything that like I've invented or it's unique, but I've not seen them do like fine
Yeah, but nor is Florian.
Yeah.
Florian said it himself. Like, he's not doing anything that's wildly different in the ceramic space. He's just doing it really, really well.
His are amazing.
Aye.
They're so good.
But like, he's obsessively good. But he's wicked. Definitely a podcast worth listening to.
Yeah, for sure.
So anyway, we digress.
Anyway,
So yeah, you become a custodian of said craft, at which point it's like, if you are in a position to do courses and all that stuff, like obviously it lines your pocket, like we all need to make money, that's just the reality of it. But if you can do that, what percentage is your courses over your general commissions?
Probably not that much, because I deliberately only do like 6 courses a year.
Right.
So, well, I don't know, like 10% maybe.
Right. Are they quite intensive to do a course?
For me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've now done quite a lot that I have, like, I've got on my cutting list, I know what I'm doing, I feel pretty, like, confident when I'm doing it, but it's just, like, when you're used to not talking to people, it's a lot of peopling, and it's a lot of paying attention and presenting, and I personally find that quite tiring.
Yeah.
I'm like, I love talking to people, but I'm like, I definitely an introvert, I need a lot of time by myself to, like, recharge. So, the longest I've done is a 2-day course, and I was, like, absolutely gubbed by the end of that. Not that my students are taxing, like, I'm very lucky that they've all been really nice. But it is just like peopling is quite...
It's hard.
I don't know how teachers do it. Oh my God, honestly.
Or even like makers who go to stalls and stuff like that. I find that hard. Like that's mentally draining as well. Like speaking and trying to sell your wares is very hard.
This weekend I did a workshop on Saturday and I did a fair on the Sunday. And like yesterday I was like, I just need to not talk to anyone for like the full morning.
And then you're talk to us.
Yeah,
It's easy though, I'm just going to play at you. But I think like as well, when I've had times when I'm doing lots of peopling, you get used to it and your tolerance goes up. So it's just because I'm a little hermit most of the time. I'm sure a lot of makers are.
There's an amount of that is just the reality of it. Like you do just become, you're in your space.
Yeah, I like to. I've been trying to think myself recently as like a little like an evil genius in his little cave, just like tinkering away, getting up to
White
things.
cat on your lap.
Yeah, I was like, what is she up to in there? So yeah, a lot of it's just by myself. But yeah, anyway, sorry. Back to your question about courses. Yes, they are quite intense, but they are definitely worth doing and enjoyable, and people in here.
Yeah, the social aspect of it.
Yeah.
And what about the other side of it? Because am I right in thinking like there's a whole copyright legality around bookbinding, isn't there? Like you couldn't just go and buy a book and just rehouse it to resell. But a lot of your clients are people that are actually printing the books, is that right?
Yeah, so I make books for, usually it's a creator, whether that's right or whatever. If I'm using a book that is already sort of printed and out there in the world, it'll tend to be like a letterpress book, letterpress printed book. So I can show you some of these in a second. They're like they're called fine bindings. So they are books that have spent like...
That's so nice.
Thank you. So they're books that you might spend like 5 or 6 weeks making. There's no point in going to all that effort to put a binding on a book that's like not a nice printed copy. So this is actually the Folio Society, so it's not like the nicest one. That was for competition. But this one here is a letterpress printed book. So it's been printed by a letterpress printer who will have thought really carefully about like the margins and the paper and the typeface, and the illustrations will have been commissioned for it. And they'll bind most of them themselves, but they'll keep a set aside for bookbinders. So it's called in sheets, so it's just sheets of paper that aren't bound. And then we'll put a binding on them. So it's got like nice deckled edges here, and then there's like woodcut illustrations on this one.
Okay.
And
these all come to you as loose, individual, like half of A4, kind of A5?
They come in what are called sections. So it's like a little folded booklet of like 3 or 4 sheets of paper, and then they are sewn together themselves. Okay. And
so like mini booklets? Yeah,
so I could show... Oh, I don't have any. I sewed them all. Oh no, there's one there. You can bind single sheets, or you can have them in sections, and in sections you can open the book flat, and it's also much longer lasting. So I'll show you this example here where you can like see so sewn at the spine, but can you see how it's little booklets? That's how these books will come. Or you can buy a really nice, like a first edition of something that's...
Can you make the wee boxes as well?
Yeah, because you got to have, if you make a nice book, you need to protect it in a nice box.
Yeah.
So there's no copyright issue. If I found a book in a bookshop,
Also, it's on the small side first.
yeah. If it's a book that I found in like a bookshop, usually out of copyright. It's a good question though, but I don't think it's something that has been.
If you're doing them for private commissions, then
or for like exhibitions or competitions.
And
or
you
whatever.
said this was a competition.
Yeah, because there's bookbinding competitions.
Right,
It's like the nerdiest thing ever.
It's a competition for most things these days. So everyone loves a bit of competition.
Excuse me. So this competition was run by Designer Bookbinders, who are a UK-based organisation who promote high quality bookbinding, where it's not just the craft that's considered, but it's also the design and how the whole thing works together. So
there's something a wee bit extra about it, eh?
it's so over the top.
There's something just a wee bit like,
I know.
bit like nice over the top. There's something a bit like, oh yeah, let me get my book out my box.
I know, man.
It's wicked though, I like it.
There are collectors who, I guess, have money to spend on these things because they're not cheap and appreciate it and like it, which is amazing. But it's that was the first fine binding I made, and it was like very hard not to go overexcited and just like gild the lily, because it can be a bit too much.
Right.
So that's quite hard when you're excited about like, oh my god, I can do silk-sewn embands and I can do like gilding and leather and all this stuff. So that's something that's like just comes with, I guess, practice and chilling out. This was for...
Is this like a very traditional, because I see this a lot on like hardcovers or book, but is this like a very traditional bookbinding type material on the front?
Yeah, so these are all book cloths.
Book cloths,
yeah. So it's a type of fabric, well, there'll be various types of fabric that are backed usually with a paper, and that stabilises them so they don't like wobble about. It also means that the glue won't come through when you're attaching it.
Right.
And usually they're made so that they can take foil blocking or tooling, which is these sort of tools here. Yeah, so this is, I was playing with the structure, but I don't think it's the right structure for this exact book. But
this is cool. Look, it actually opens up flat.
Yeah, and this has a 4-edge painting on it, which is on... So it's gilded here, but then there's a painting.
Oh, watch it that.
The camera won't be able to see that, will it?
So it's just painted on like a fraction of the page. So this is a method called 4-edge painting, vanishing 4-edge painting.
So is the painting on this return edge, like just on the tiny little slip on the front?
Yeah,
right.
It's not on the actual
How?
edge of the brick.
It's like those...
Wow, that's good.
remember the billboards you used to see, and as you drove past them, they changed because it was like a triangle. It's exactly like that. That's wicked.
Thanks, pal. It's a craft that's... Do you know the Heritage Craft Association? They got their endangered craft list. This is critically endangered, this craft, because there's only... I mean, I'm kind of like very early in my career for doing it, but there's a guy called Martin Frost who... That's his main thing.
The 4-edge painting's his main thing.
Painting,
right.
Endangered crafts, we don't want them to go.
Don't want them to disappear.
No. So I do want to do more of this sort of thing.
Yeah.
Because it's a bit fun. It's a bit magic.
That is pretty cool.
And they used to get them in gentlemen's libraries and they put lots of pictures in them.
Oh, there you go. That's the history of it.
That's the history.
Trust the Gentleman's Club.
I know. So so the book cloth is
It's fine, don't worry about it.
Just as long as your ball doesn't fall.
Aye. I was more worried about your building falling down. Oh well.
Do you want to see some more bindings?
Absolutely. I want to see it all.
Cool. So
Anyone listening has to watch this now.
Aye, turn off Spotify, turn on YouTube.
Sorry guys, I've not been thinking about this. So this is Graphic Scenes by David Kindersley, who was a lettering artist, but he trained as a stone carver. So I was thinking about stone carving with the design of this. So it's all been what's called tooled, which are these shapes here.
So these are actually depressions. Oh, nice.
It's a brass tool that's shaped, like all of these shapes will be a brass tool that shape. And I did it while the leather was undyed, and then I airbrushed it at a shallow angle so that it looks like it's stone. And then these are based on letter carving guides.
So did you say you done all the front artwork as well?
Nerd.
Check you, eh?
I got a bit overexcited in this one. It's a bit much. But yeah, it's a bit extra. Yeah, this is these are two different pieces of paper with a leather joint, and I really wanted it to match up with the ink, so I spent quite I spent too long doing that.
Is that quite typical for the bookbinder to do the cover and to do everything as well?
Yeah,
so it's not just the attaching of pages, it's everything that goes around
Sorry,
it.
please, yes.
That is so cool.
I mean, so we'll get just sheets of paper.
Right.
And then it's up to us how we sew them together, and then how we attach the boards, and then how we decorate it, how we treat the edges, how we design and make the end papers. It's like absolutely everything.
So nice.
And most bookbinders will think about how the binding relates to the content, so that it's like one cohesive piece, and it reflects and sort of enhances what's inside, because it should.
Hopefully the camera got that.
So that really starts to pertain to your illustration background at that point, doesn't it?
I think it's a bit a benefit.
Because I kind of viewed bookbinding as the sort of the more engineering side of craft.
Yeah.
You know, the performance over prettiness.
Yes.
And
you have to do both.
Yeah, it's kind of surprising me how much it is 50-50. Like, obviously it has to not fall apart, but there's an amount of it that's, if someone's going full special edition, it needs to look special as well as perform special, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose like, that seems obvious to me that it's both, but I suppose like not all crafts are like that, maybe, or...
Yeah, I didn't think it would. I didn't think it'd be both. Like when you first showed me that, obviously I get the boxes, but I didn't imagine that you'd be doing all the tooling on it and all this on it, and I certainly didn't imagine you'd be doing the tool on the front of that. I thought that was provided to you.
Oh yeah, do it all, baby.
One-stop
shop.
One-stop shop. Come here for all your bookbinding needs.
I mean, that's a very like British bookbinding way of doing it. If you go to France, they will have someone who does the leather, they'll have someone else who does the edge gilding, someone else does titling. Their books are very high quality as a result, because if you're just doing gold tooling, you'll be like phenomenal at that. Yeah. And I'll never be as good as they are, because I'm also having to learn a million other things.
All the other stuff, yeah.
But I think that's also because they've got a good like trade union sort of ethos over there, don't they? They're good at looking after different jobs.
Yeah.
But also, I quite like being able to do everything, because I want control over it, and
you get more options to offer people.
For sure.
Well, I think it shows your personality through it better, doesn't it? Like if it was different people doing everything, you'd be like, oh well, that's bound by Gillian, but Francisco's done the tooling, done, do you know, whatever, insert French name here. But and then the boxes as well. So if someone's coming to you like, here's my pages, are you giving them back this?
Do the boxes.
Right, so they just provide you the pages and you do everything else.
Yeah, they could provide the pages, or I'll find the pages myself. Or there's a lot of different ways it can work. But yeah, bookbinders will often have to know how to make boxes as well, because you don't want to take like a beautiful book that you spent 6 weeks making and then it gets damaged because it gets put on the shelf.
Dump it in a jiffy bag.
Yeah, also they're leather, and leather, it's a skin, so if we go in the sun, we get tanned. If leather's in the sun, it will go a different colour. So you need to protect it in some way, also from other sort of environmental factors that can damage the book. And the boxes that we make are like, they're custom fitted, so you measure your book to fraction of a millimetre and you make a box where you calculate how thick the covering material is. You have to add like a fraction of a millimetre for air. You want it to be like really snug, and then when it closes you want there to be like a little vacuum so that it...
Satisfying.
I really like boxes.
It's like that, what do you call it? There's definitely a name for that kind of video where it's just like...
Oh, the ASMR sort
of... That's it,
yeah.
Just like...
Maybe that's what my YouTube channel should be.
Maybe it should be just ASMR of closing
boxes.
books over.
Someone's going to
Probably doing really well, to be honest. Probably doing wicked well.
Some voiceover.
So with doing so much, does that then require a buttload of tooling to do all this? Or is it all pretty simple stuff? Because I know you've got a lot of like heavy presses and certainly some older machine, you know, there's old Fieldhouse stuff there and all looks very old cast. And
Aye, a lot of the stuff, most of the tools we'll use are hand tools.
Right.
So like knives and bone folders and like a variety of different things that we've
What's it
pinched.
called there, a bone folder?
A bone folder. That's like if you go to apprenticeship as a bookbinder and like on day one you'll get given a bone folder. And it is the thigh bone of...
Oh, right.
So you might have seen these with like leather workers that use them as well. So it's the thigh bone of a cow or an ox. They're very strong. And they're usually like this sort of shape, but after time your thumb or your fingers will wear away. So if you pick up someone else's, you'll be able to feel, oh, that's not mine.
There we go.
So I'm using like a lot of different knives and... what else do we use? Lots of wee bits. We tend to like pinch tools from other crafts and trades. So we've got like cobbler's knives and all sorts of mad things.
It feels like you're doing lots of other crafts and trades though. You know, like certainly like gold leafing.
Oh yeah.
That's definitely like I see a lot of bookbinding, or a lot. Not that I knew it was bookbinding before this, but I see a lot of covers with that on it, or like the tooling. You would typically say, like you said, that's leather. Feels like you're doing loads of other little crafts.
Yeah, that's why it's so interesting.
Yeah.
It is wicked. Like I can see why you like latched onto this from illustration.
Yeah.
Feels really in depth.
Because you have to know about like paper, and if you've got an art or creative background, that helps. We use a lot of I'll use a lot of printmaking techniques, and then you need to know about leather. You need to know about chopping things with board choppers, and sewing. We do for this one we had hand sewn end bands, so you need to be able to use a needle and thread. Pages are sewn together, obviously.
Oh, okay.
Top there.
Yeah.
You need to be comfortable with painting.
Gosh, that's a lot.
Using knives, sharpening knives. It's so fun. There's loads of different wee
You
bits.
love it, eh?
I
You're
do.
properly jazzed.
I'll never get bored because there's always something else I can get my hands into.
Yeah.
And then we use some letterpress equipment to do the titling on the books, like these letters here.
Yep.
So we need different sort of presses for that.
This one looks nice.
Thanks. That was for a florist.
Oh, is it?
And her logo is like a little. She has a lot of these little.
Oh, very nice.
So would you then go and get the stamps machined and then get them all pressed up yourself? And
Aye, yeah. So you can use letterpress type.
Yep.
To do titling, but as I'm sure you guys know, it's not something you just go to a shop and buy.
Yeah.
It's pretty hard to get hold of them. So you can get what's called a die or a plate made, which is it will be in any shape or any sort of typeface.
Yep.
And then you use your equipment to heat that up, and then using pressure and heat and dwell time and the right foil, hopefully that does its thing and stays on.
Do you do that as one pass? Do you do the press and the foiling in one pass? Aye. 'Cause
Ideally, yes.
I don't know if I'd want to do it twice, you know?
So ideally it will work right away, but often it doesn't, and you have to go in a few times.
Right.
And that's where things can go wrong. But it's fine. When I worked in a bookbinders, that's all I was doing was the foil blocking. They didn't really let me do books.
Right.
So that was actually good because I learned how to do a lot of foil blocking, which is actually something that is quite hard to learn if you want to learn it. You can't kind of go to a course to learn foil blocking, so I suppose that's actually quite good. I've got that in my pocket.
Yeah.
Maybe that's your next course. Maybe that's your first YouTube video.
Oh yeah, that's our first just here.
There we go. There we go.
That's it. How far down the rabbit hole do you think you are?
In terms of what I could learn.
In
Oh
terms
my
of
God,
bookbinding?
5%.
Aye.
Yeah.
5%, there's so much. I'll never know it all.
I didn't think for a minute I'd be as intrigued by bookbinding as I am right now.
Oh, good. I'd love to hear it.
That's why I was
sounds
thinking it'd
good.
be quite cool to try.
Yeah, I genuinely love all different crafts and love to see all different people doing it, but there's a wee bit of the engineering part of my brain that's ticking.
Quite a lot of engineering.
A gid box.
There's a lot of people who come to bookbinding through engineering as a second
okay.
degree or something. Yeah, the guy who taught me, he was an engineer. So watch yourself.
There you go.
Jack is an engineer, so...
Yep, there you are.
Yeah, because there's all sorts of things you have to think about with how a book functions and how it opens. And once you know what it could feel like, if you feel something that doesn't feel as good, you'll know it's because they've not thought about the joint size, or something's half a mil off, or they've used the wrong thread, and then it just won't do what it's meant to. So
you're really into pinpoint accuracies, aren't you?
Yeah.
Because the book needs to perform, ultimately.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not an expert. I'm not amazing at all. I'm just still learning. I've got so much to learn. But you get a bigger appreciation for it as you go along, don't you?
Yeah.
And your standards have got to remain high so that you...
Guess you feel you're just getting started, really.
Yeah, totally.
Well, if you're only 5% down the rabbit hole,
Yeah.
you're only getting deeper. What do you think's next? What's the 6th, 7th, 8%?
Oh God, I want to get real good at fine bindings. There's loads of different structures I want to learn. I want to learn some French bookbinding. I want to do more
Talk me through all the
magnets.
structures, because I am a Luddite in your craft.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm the same. I really don't know much about bookbinding at all.
I've got this box here of bookbinding tutorials.
Yeah, I was going to ask, how do you learn? Of course you did some, you learn off other people, but that's not always easy to do.
Yeah, so I learned most of my teaching was with Tom McEwen, who's an amazing bookbinder,
Right.
past engineer.
One of the boys?
One of the boys. He's a fellow of Designer Bookbinder, so he's really good, one of the best. And so learn from him. I've been on a few courses. There's some good week-long intensive courses in Switzerland and Italy that I went to with really good teachers. And I'm now a So designer bookbinders, they have fellows. So that's who are like right at the top. You have to go through a big application process. The step below a fellow is a licentiate. So I'm a licentiate.
It's a very posh one.
Yeah.
Isn't
I'm a
it?
licentiate.
I know. So I have been assigned to bookbinding mentors who are fellows.
Right.
And I also have a bit of funding through that where I can go and train
Oh, cool.
for the bookbinders. So that's amazing. That's really good because it is expensive if you're training and you're having to pay for it yourself. So that's
So is that like a bookbinding council that's looking to keep bookbinding alive?
Absolutely, because they recognise like how all these, in the last sort of 10 or 15 years, so many courses and apprenticeships have just closed.
Sad, isn't it?
It is really sad. And we've got so much like talent and history in bookbinding in the UK that they're like recognising that something needs to be done. So
Do you know, it is sad, you're absolutely right, but I do think it's better that these people, and it's just my opinion, that these people are looking after it who make it their life's mission to look after it, rather than like a university or a college doing a course on it. Because you wouldn't get that same quality of, like, you've been assigned 2 fellows, so presumably these fellows are people that have devoted their life to being really fucking good bookbinders. Whereas with a college, it's just about, and I really don't want to slam colleges and universities here. I've obviously been through university. Kate's been through university. We've all been through university. But a lot of it is just to get the grades at the end, to make their... It's a business. Like, a university is becoming a business. I certainly know that I latched on to one lecturer at university, and I latched onto him because he'd actually practiced. A lot of the other lecturers had been career lecturers, whereas all these like institutions that are here as custodians of the craft, like, they're in it for the craft.
Yeah.
They don't give a shit what their pass rates are. They don't care what any of that is. They're just like, no, we're here to do that. And I do think there's something that's not spoken about enough, that these old boys clubs, as they often get called, certainly in the engineering space, it's a good thing that they are.
That's interesting. I hadn't thought about it that way.
I much prefer it. See, when you look at all the different crafts, and even like QEST, and we'll talk about QEST in a bit, like when you look at stuff like that, it's a good thing they're there. Yeah. It's a good thing they're there. And I think I would rather see more of them, maybe them taking a more university college based approach, but more of them rather than universities and colleges try to teach this stuff. But part of me is like, what right have you got to teach that stuff? It'd be different if you were going to a college to be like, I'm going to use the college name and space, but I'm going to do bookbinding. There you are.
There we go, long-term goal.
So that's valuable, isn't it? But when they're like, well, I'm just going to design the course around this literature.
Yeah.
Doesn't really work.
I know what you mean. I think, there has to be like an input from people who have worked in the industry and who know what it's like and who know the things that you need to learn. Because I do think that the bookbinding course at Glasgow City College was good because it was run by people who had experience in the industry.
So there you go.
But sadly that closed. But and I suppose, like, as you say, they're not so interested in grades as like making sure you're working in the industry and you're learning the right things. I would quite like to be part-time gig as a lecturer, just for a bit like financial security.
Yeah.
There's definitely a part to that.
A routine.
Yeah,
a bit of structure. Yeah.
So talk us through all this. Sorry, I went off on a tangent there because I've got a bugbear about colleges and universities.
I managed to get so this came from DB funding. I managed to get some tutorials from an organisation called Bookbinding Out of the Box, which is run by Benjamin Elbel, who is like an amazing bookbinder, all sorts of engineering happening in his books. So I've actually not opened this yet because I've not had time. I need
Let's
to
do it live
I've
unboxing.
just had jobs that I've had to do, and it's been sitting here for months just teasing me. It has been months. It's just that we were like...
So is this his course that he's put together?
Yeah, so these are structures...
This is cool.
Yeah, so these are structures that he's designed, and then he has created these tutorials, and...
I hope these are good because we're opening them live on the podcast.
Oh man. What, do you guys want to open some? That's quite an interesting one. This is one I'm really excited by, Daniel Kelm, who's like a really cool bookbinder who does all sorts of stuff with wires. This one's here. You can open that one. A little presents. And look how nicely they're wrapped.
That's what I was going to say. It's very nicely wrapped, isn't it?
Because there's lots of things in bookbinding that have been around forever and no one knows who invented them. And then there's some structures which have clearly been the invention of a person. So these are Frames ones. So I wonder if you can see, the tutorials are amazing, they're so clear.
Onion skin binding with single leaf.
Wait till you see the
Onion
pictures.
skin
yeah,
binding.
Man. That's what.
Kate, we're on the way down a rabbit hole here.
Yeah, you're.
What, is this still a podcast?
So this is the book spine here.
Wow.
Heidi is so clever.
It looks like a very well put together course.
They are, and he sent me all the materials as well. They're all
It's
cut
got
to
all
size.
like what you need. All
Isn't
the
it
tools that you need.
gorgeous? Do you know, I've actually not even... I'm so glad I'm opening these. I'm glad you guys are here. It's making me open them. Yeah, so this one's, look at that clever one there, where the spine like pops
that's
out of the way of itself.
This is what this should be available to lots of different crafts that people want to learn. This is cool, like digestible, easy to follow.
That's what I liked about it. It's all small. You know, that is one big book's a bit of a mammoth, but all is small books.
Aye.
So is this all? You've got onion skin,
The Shrigley,
Shrigley.
the Tumush, the Album, Dro Rapporté, P&L. I've got all of these apart from these two. God. Lucky me.
Lucky you, eh?
So I've decided, right, I'm doing
This is the one that I associate with the wire edge binding.
Have you seen it before?
I don't know if I've seen it before. I've certainly seen videos of it before where it's like sewn edge. But that is kind of what I associate when I see bookbinding. Like the very traditional Japanese bookbinding kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's what I would imagine.
That's interesting because the wire edge binding is actually like, instead of sewing through the sections, it's a strip of wire and then that's sewn to the next bit. So it's actually really innovative, but I guess it's got like a visual language that does refer back to traditional.
Yeah, so it's maybe,
methods.
that's a good point. It's maybe not wire edge that I've seen, but I've seen something that looks like it.
Yeah, and it's making you think of that.
Yeah.
These
are good, these.
They're amazing. They're so good. And the structures, I think you could do like quite simple versions, or you can elevate them and do like a really elaborate fine binding.
That's satisfying image.
I don't know. They're so clever. So I'm excited to learn these and do some fine bindings with them. But yeah, I decided I'm going to say it now on tape, that I'm going to take 3 months off next year. And I just want to
I'm not editing that out. That's immortalised.
Yeah.
2024.
Yeah, I want to like spend some time just learning these and making some books for myself, and just playing about with.
I think that's important, like to give yourself space to learn.
Have you ever set aside time for yourself before to just learn? Because this is a big thing that we notice for makers.
No, because even when I did QEST, I was also working part-time and volunteering, so I had to squeeze it in around everything else. Because I think the thing is, when you're learning, you're not earning generally, and that can be really hard to like take a cut in your earnings.
It's also where I feel a lot of makers become producers. They stop becoming makers, they're just producing the thing. I think there's an amount of making that you still need to be creative, and I think a lot of people lose that creativity because they're... And so far, the potters we've spoke to have been great. They've set aside time to do stuff like you, they've set aside like a month or whatever. But I feel like pottery is one of them that you could just get stuck in the rhythm of just making pots and pots. And actually, at what point do you just become a one-man factory versus a maker? Do you know what I mean? At what point, if you're making the same book time and time and time again, do you just become a one-man factory? Or one-woman factory?
Yeah.
So what would your 3 months off look like? What would you explore?
Good question. I would like to just lie down for like 2 weeks.
Yeah. That's a good start.
Read a book, maybe just look out the window. I would like to, I want to make some artist books of like weird things I've got in my head, where I like create the content and the binding, because it's not often that I like combine those things. And I want to release like an artist book.
Would that be your own illustrations and stuff as well?
Yeah, and I did it this year, off the back of my residency last year, and I loved it. It was so good, got me so jazzed up. It was hard work, but like it ticked all the right bits in my brain.
Aye.
So I'd like to do that. I'd like to learn some new methods and spend time like just playing and getting used to some new structures and create some fine bindings. 3 months isn't a long time to create plural fine bindings, but maybe one.
My next question.
Maybe one fine binding. And just not take on client work unless it's like really amazing, can't turn down job.
Yeah. What needs to happen for that to happen?
So interesting you ask this, because I'm currently doing some coaching, some creative coaching, and we are thinking about all these things that need to happen. Yeah. So I need to just get through some big jobs that I have in front of me, and then I just need to stop taking on work.
Clear decks.
It's hard though.
eh?
I need to say no to some things, which is really hard. It's really hard when, this coaching is making me think about like what we're making decisions based on, and a lot of them I went, decisions have been based on like financial security and like trying to have an alright amount of money. And it's hard to not have that as a priority and go like, oh no, I'll just make some fun things for me.
Yeah.
But actually, I super nearly burned out last year, and I think I need to take a break at some point or it will happen again.
Yeah, burnout's not good.
I was very crispy. So
You said you nearly burnt out. Did you recognise that you were burning out, and how did you tone it back?
So I think there's a few times when I've been very close. I think it happened just before, happened maybe a year before I took 3 months off last year for a residency actually, and that was part of me planning to take time off. So I got some funding from Creative Scotland to go and do the residency. So I kind of had to do a few things before. I don't know if it was burnout because I wasn't like diagnosed, but I was not feeling very good.
Is there a diagnosis for burnout though?
I don't know. I feel like whenever I look up, it's like I have to do this, and this. I'm like, oh, I don't know if I tick all those boxes.
Pish, that's what the internet says.
Yeah.
If you feel like you're burnt, if you feel like you can't achieve what you were achieving before, I think that's burnout.
Yeah, I was pretty like, I pride myself on being able to work really hard and really fast, and I think sometimes that's like, it's just too much. And I did like 3 80-hour weeks in a row. And at one point I was just like sitting, just like at my desk, just like crying. Nothing had happened, but I was just so tired. And I'd started like, I think I applied for like a few jobs at like libraries, and I was like, Jill, you want to work for yourself? Like, I think that was like a warning sign when I was like looking for a job that like paid less. So that was a good warning sign. So
you were looking for like a boring, stable job.
Yeah. I don't want that. I don't want no part of that.
No,
you want that in the moment. You don't want that full stop. Right.
So, I think a lot of us, full stop, but especially makers, were prone to just taking on too much.
Yeah.
But I don't want to do it again. So I'm just going to take 3 delicious months off next year.
In one block?
Well-deserved one.
I want to do it in one block. I can't do the thing where you just like take a Friday afternoon off to work on your own stuff, because I'll just be like, oh, I'll just take on that other job, or that'll be some handy money, I'll just do that. Do you know what I mean? So
it's hard to take time off like guilt-free.
It doesn't, and I don't know a lot about bookbinding other than what I've learned in the past 49 minutes, but it doesn't feel like you could experiment in just a Friday afternoon or a Friday.
No, you're totally right. You need to
What are the time scales?
Depends what you're doing, but if I wanted to do one of these tutorials, I'd want like 3 days at least.
Just to work through the tutorial?
Yeah, and like try out different versions and what's it like if you do it with leather or different sizes. And if I want to mess about and do a fine binding, I need like 5 weeks.
Right.
5 weeks.
Pretty much not doing much else.
So one of like the books that you showed us, the books in the boxes, what would the time scale be on that? From you getting the sheets?
Yeah, so I have done one in 3 weeks, but I don't recommend it. You need probably like at least 4 weeks. Wow. And that's not like non-stop, because things need to dry, and you need like time in between different stages, like being the press or whatever, but usually about 4 weeks upwards. That would be like a quick one, I think.
Right.
And that's just the processes are all very time consuming. Depending on how complex the leather is on the outside, you can spend days decorating your leather, and then you need to pair it so it's right thinness, and then it takes a day to go on the book, and your tooling might take a day or two. Edge decoration takes a day. Your end papers, I feel like end papers take me like a week, which is these are end papers, and they're like the first thing you need to do. And I don't know what my design is when I start the book. I quite like finding out as I go along, but I'm always like, oh fuck, I need to do the end papers first. I don't know what they're going to be, and it takes me so long. So
just from a creative stumble point of view, it takes you so long.
I think so, yeah. I'll try a few things and it doesn't feel right, and I don't know what I want the book to be like yet, but you kind of have to make quite a big decision right at the start.
Yeah, it feels that way.
And sometimes it's the right one, and sometimes it doesn't work. But by then it's far too late.
Yeah.
So, a good few weeks on a book.
Wow.
And like, how nice it'll just be able to like faff about and go, oh, I don't know what I think about that. Maybe try that over there, and what if I did this? And I don't like that. I'll do it all over again. And
is there understanding with your customers though that it's a few weeks?
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Because that's the big thing when someone's like, oh, but it's only this size. It must only take a few days, you know?
Yeah, it depends totally on the structure. So most of my commissions are not this type of book. There are bookbinders who just do this, but I am not yet there. I would like to be somewhere closer. I don't know if I'd like to do all fine bindings. I quite like a mix of different things, but I'm just a baby designer bookbinder.
Is fine bindings the top echelon? Right. That's the creme de la creme. That's what all the fellows are.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So one day, oh God, maybe. But so ones I've sold through these have either been off the back of exhibitions or competitions,
Right.
Or this company in the States who bought 10 fine bindings at once, which was a bit mad. It's not usual. So I've kind of like not had a huge amount of experience of people coming to me for, I think I've had one commission for a fine binding. But yeah, people always understand it takes time.
That's good.
Yeah, but I think, I don't know, like for this one, this book here would take me like, from start to finish, if I was doing it in 1 hour, it would take me like a good few hours.
Right.
And I don't know if everybody always appreciates how long it takes. And that's why they are expensive, because they do take time.
Yeah.
Like they're not, a hand-bound book is not the cheapest way to make a book at all.
But people like want that handmade.
Well, it's a different thing, isn't it? It's
yeah.
not just the normal book that anyone's got. There's a space on the shelf for that.
Are you allowed to put your mark in any of these? What's that? What's your stand on that?
I don't do it.
No. Why not?
That's a good question.
I think you should.
I think if it's something like this, if I was going to be included, it would be in the
Could
colophon.
even be just a maker's mark. It doesn't have to be your name as such.
I should.
Who did we ask that before? I can't remember. But I was just like, why? Where's your maker mark? Because somebody's going to like see that table. Or no, it was Yellowstone Creative. Yeah, it was. Yeah, Yellow Hammer Creative.
Yellowhammer.
Yeah, they did posters for like music festivals.
Oh,
and
nice.
people are like, oh, where'd you get the poster done? But they'd never put their maker's mark on it. So they could have got business out of
I
that.
don't know. I probably should just like a little something somewhere.
Something recognisable to you.
Yeah, I know. I feel like I think some people wouldn't want it if it like this is going to their clients, so maybe they. But I should.
You can always ask.
I know. I could. Yeah, I did.
Just need a sly one.
The only time I've asked is when I did some boxes for Idris Elba's wedding, and I said
You've
like,
done whoa.
not him personally. It was like through a company, and I did say like I would give you a slightly cheaper price if I can put my logo on it, and they said no, but that's fine.
You've done some boxes for Idris Elba's wedding.
Because I've got. Do you want to see one? Because there's one here. Because so
That
if
is
you
mad.
are, if you, I was really early in my career as well. It was like right at the
Why
start.
did they say
How
no?
did you end up with that gig?
So they worked. It was this company who was planning it. This like amazing wedding in Marrakesh, and the.
So it was like a wedding planning company had gone to do.
Yeah, like an event planning company. They got in touch with a stationer, a really amazing stationer, and she found me on Instagram just like using a hashtag. And
Yeah,
I like
hashtag searching's the one. That's how we find everyone.
really.
Everybody. Like even when we're going to
Amazing.
the States, we'll be searching locations and like made in Alabama or made in whatever. Hashtag searching is the boy.
It's good to know. Because I like was so resistant to Instagram. I hate shouting about myself, but like most of my business is just due to social
Bit
media.
posh, isn't it?
So if you are like having a celebrity wedding, you don't want people to go to the press and like ruin your big day. So their guests were invited on a private jet, and then when they
What'd you
arrived, they all had one of these on their chair, and it had
That's cool.
all the details on it. And they were like, "You're going to Marrakesh."
Do you know an invite? Did you not just sell deal for nothing for an invite?
I had to sign a heavy NDA.
I'll bet you did,
I had to hire people, and they all had to sign NDAs as well. It was quite stressful. I kept worrying that I'd like get drunk and tell everyone in the pub, but I didn't. It was fine. But
When was this?
where was the wedding?
No, when was it?
Oh, when was
did
it? 2019.
2019.
So my business was still pretty young at that point, and it was 150.
Wow,
and I didn't
that's
have
a
this big
big
studio at the
gig.
time. Yeah, so I learned a bunch from doing it. But it was quite stressful to manage.
Did you see any pictures?
It was in Vogue.
Was it? That's cool.
But I didn't get any credit, but it's fine, whatever.
That's a shame.
I don't know. But I don't know.
Hey, you can still claim to fame it though. You can still put it on your website and be like, "Hi, that was mine."
Yeah, as soon as it was out, I was like, okay, no, I'm just going to obviously spam Instagram for like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Tell everybody this is what
mine.
happened.
Yeah. So, but how good would that have been? Because like, think about the people that would be invited to that, and if they'd just seen my little thing and been like, that's where I'll go for my fancy book.
These little things just help makers.
Oh, why?
You know, why?
I know.
That is what it is. But
Yeah, but it was someone that I think it's my dad actually who gave me that idea to ask about that. And I just never, as I say, I'm not naturally like entrepreneurial. Like that didn't cross my mind until my dad, who used to run a garage, was like, "Why don't you put your logo on it?" But
You're just
next
busy
time,
doing your thing.
I'm just like, I'll just make books.
Yeah.
Don't do the business. So, aye.
That's wicked.
Thanks, pal.
That's pretty cool. That is, and I mean, it's not that the fact that it's, you know, it's a celebrity, like that's got its thing in itself, but ultimately they are all just the same as us. It's just the fact that someone's entrusted you to do 150 for a wedding, for their wedding. That is a high profile wedding.
I know, and they could have gone to like anyone. It was like a big.
No, they couldn't have. They had to come in. I'm the best.
It was a really big boost to my confidence knowing that I'd done it. Even if it wasn't for that sort of high profile, it was like that was a short turnaround, and like I managed to organise it all and did it. So that was like back myself up a bit because I totally struggled with like self confidence at the start, and like I still do. So that was nice. It was a big boost.
That's good. Just a wee things like that help, though, eh?
Yeah.
They do, in a big way.
Well done, you.
So what about you've done a lot of studying in Europe as well, didn't you? Switzerland and
Italy, yeah.
How did that all come about?
So that was funded through QEST as well.
Oh, wicked.
Aye, so when you apply for, you guys I'm sure know about QEST.
But there'll be a lot of people that don't.
So for the benefit of the listeners at home, so QEST are a charity based in the UK who fund makers to do training. Up to, it was 18 grand when I applied, between 5 and 18 grand. And you just need to be based in the UK and be a maker who's already pretty good and working in the trade.
So you need to be full-time working at that point, like you've committed your life to that?
No, you don't need to be full-time, but you just need to be like wanting to carry on working.
Yeah.
So
Right.
it can't be like just a hobby.
Yeah.
You've got to be pretty committed to it as a craft.
Your vision is to make it full-time at some point.
Yeah. Or be employed to like a very high standard in like a print studio or like a ceramics studio or something. But yeah, you've got to be like all about the craft and show promise that you can be good at it. So you have to put together your own program. Mm-hmm. So you have to do a bunch of research about who you like to learn from and be able to explain why you want to learn from them. You have to know what the gaps are in your skills and sort of be able to show that QEST is what you can use to help fill the gaps.
So it's quite a self-reflective process.
It is, yeah. So I had...
It's like doing a CDAP for the engineering school, like your career development plan.
Oh, really?
Did you have to do that for your
art school?
thing?
No.
No, not for art school.
For QEST?
What was the big fancy word that you're at? Your licentiate, did you have to do that?
Like an informal way, they ask you where you want to go and
Right.
what you're headed for.
So when you go into the engineering sector, whether you go for your Eng Tech, incorporated engineer or chartered engineer, you have to do what's called a CDAP. And your CDAP is your continual development, something professionalism. And it's basically like, here's my weaknesses, here's my strengths, this is my day-to-days. And it's a huge document that everyone does to the same standard. That sounds similar to the QEST thing you're describing.
Kind of like taking an audit on where you want
an
to
audit
go
on yourself, that's a good way to describe it.
Yeah, it was a bit like that actually. I hadn't thought about it in that way, but yeah, you have to kind of take stock of where you are and where you want to end up. And through that process, you have to do a lot of research about what's out there. And that's how I found these schools. And I'm not really interested in like traditional bookbinding as much as I am in like contemporary processes and sort of innovative new structures and fun ways of doing things. And these schools were teaching with teachers that do sort of modern approaches in contemporary bookbinding.
Oh, okay.
So they were the right people for me to go and learn from. And they were dead good. Learned loads. But they're just short,
How long were they?
Just 1 week courses, so just like 1 week's 10-day, like quite intense courses. But they were, one of them was run by Profession Libro, run by an amazing bookbinder called Christina in Milan. And it's in a monastery on the top of a hill next to like a huge lake in a nature reserve in Italy.
Of course it is.
Why
would it not be?
There's like monks floating about in their big habits and it's just like absolutely gorgeous. And it's all catered and like the teachers are there the whole time. So I did 2 courses there which were really good. And then another one is in Switzerland in a bookbinding school called Centro di Bel Libro, which is like one of the best. And they had a really cool teacher called Kylan Lee who does lots of interesting articulated structures and fun things with carbon rods and stuff. So
sounds like you've had some good experiences.
yeah, I'm really lucky, very lucky, because I couldn't afford to do it on my own, and I've like learned so much just from those like short courses that I've like the way I handle materials and tools, like so much of it's influenced by the people that I've learned from in that short amount of time. So
yeah, it doesn't feel like what you've done here. You wouldn't be able to pick it up in the same way just reading the online stuff.
Definitely not. No.
There's a hands-on
yeah
amount to it, isn't there?
And everyone's got their own little skills or little tips.
100%. Yeah. Every process in bookbinding, a bookbinder will have their own way to do it. There's kind of like
See which one suits you better.
yeah. So you have to try it all out, and most people will say this is the way to do it, and then you just got to try it out, and someone else will say it's a different way. But that's fun, and then you find your own way.
Yeah.
But you're totally right. There's a lot of processes have like, if you're making a slip case for a box, it's got to have like a right speed that the book comes out, and it has to feel right, and there's all sorts of like tactile things that you can't communicate even through
There's a right speed that the book comes out.
Yeah, you don't want it to fall out too fast, and you don't want to be like trying to So yeah, it's not just, you know, there's so many other senses that you can't communicate just through like a written thing. So yeah, learning from people is kind of one of the best ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not always possible.
No, totally. But it's cool
it's
that
the
there's
best way.
places out there to help make that possible. You know, when you've done that, like we talked about there, the sort of self-audit, did that change your view at all? Like on the direction you were going? Feels like it'd be a good thing for a lot of makers to do.
It was so long ago now. It was like 2018 that I got QEST. I think
That was quite close to the start of your journey, surely?
it was, yeah. Yeah,
Or the start of your independent journey?
Yeah, because I could do some basic bookbinding, but I wanted to do more. I was impatient.
That's fine.
So it was quite near the start, but came at a good time for me. I think it made me look at different types of bookbinding that was out there and like sort of commit to a course. You know, I don't really want to do restoration or like old books.
Yeah.
It's for lots of people, but it's not for me.
That's fair.
So it was good to just think about that. Yeah, it's worth doing every now and then. I'm doing a lot of, as I say, this coaching thing that I'm doing is just like make me think about all of these things all at the same time.
What is this creative coaching thing?
It's through.
What on?
There's it's kind of landed on my lap and it's been really good. A woman called Sandy Thompson, who's like a creative powerhouse, amazing person, who runs. She does all sorts of amazing things. She is running some workshops along with Glasgow Uni and a coach, a creative coach.
This is the first time I've heard of this creative coach, but it's intriguing.
Yeah, well, I guess she's a coach, but like.
Is it like a life coach for creative folk?
Kind of, I think so, yeah. It just like, she just phoned up and said, I think that's really good, do you want to do it? We're putting together a small cohort. And I was like, I'm doing a million things. I was like, yeah, sounds good, cool, sign me up. And then it's been like really good. It's making us think about like, what do you want? Why do you want it? What are your weaknesses and your flaws and your strengths and how do you leverage your strengths and who's making decisions in your brain? And it's making me think about all sorts of good things. So I feel like I'm kind of doing an audit. I'm doing a terrible job of explaining this. But yeah, it wasn't advertised. It was like, I think it's maybe part of like a research thing.
Okay.
With Glasgow Uni or something. I don't really know.
Sounds really interesting.
Yeah, it sounds like
It's really good.
we could do it, and it certainly sounds like we could connect them with more people. That'd be interesting. Do We Are Makers, not us do it personally because we don't have a fucking clue, but get her to do it with some of the makers that we represent, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
So what has it made you think about?
So maybe think about what my priorities are and where I want to be heading. And I kind of feel like it's not so much to do with my business and more to do with like my soul.
It's getting deep.
It's getting really deep. Yeah, it's getting really deep, which is like not what I expected at all. What has it made me think about? It's made me think about the fact that I want to. Yeah, I'm making a lot of decisions at the moment. I think I said this earlier, like based on like financial security and like. I'm like really good at saving money and I'm bad at spending money, and I kind of am at a stage where I just need to stop working just to like hoard money, and I need to just like relax a bit and have some fun and stop knocking my pan in all the time, all day, every day.
Keep staring at me.
Is this ringing any bells with you guys?
Big time for me. I'm financially very unhealthy.
Yeah.
I work to
what way?
save or to put money into this.
Right? It's hard though. Well, how do you think you ended up like that? Because it sounds like a good thing,
yeah,
right?
You've tried to answer this question, but it's very
I
hard.
have been trying to answer this question, and I've got as far as I started working very early.
Like what age?
14 in my first bike shop. Don't tell the HMRC.
Yeah.
I started working very early and I've worked consistently since. So I started my full-time job, small company, set that up, working for film 8 years ago. And April, I went part-time, and that was the first time I'd had a weekday off in 8 years.
Wow. Yeah, it's hardcore, man.
And probably about 3-4 months before that was the first time I took a weekend off.
Right, yeah.
And then now I've been off for like 5 months.
Nice.
I've just been like, do it, take it off. And I've not been back since. I've done a few odd jobs. Because I'm trying to move into, I tend to go and work for the film in like a full capacity, like they book me out for anywhere from 32 to 40 weeks, or this next contract will be 18 months, and they book me out as part of the team,
Right.
which is wicked, and I work with an amazing team, and equally it's worth saying as well that I get the guy that I work for most of the time, the sort of overall special effects supervisor, he gets this side of things, he gets the We Are Makers side of things,
Right.
he's made donations to it before and everything, and so that allows me the time to also work on this.
Cool.
But I'm trying to move into a position, I would still work for him full-time as the team, but all the other projects I would just take on as doing a couple of days here and a couple of days there. But I've been really uncomfortable with doing that because I'm like, oh, well, there's stability in doing the other.
Yeah.
So like financially, like really unhealthy. So it's interesting you say the creative coaching side, because I think that's probably what a lot of people feel.
That's interesting.
Because obviously I've been in and out of working for myself and maker, and you've seen how hard it is. And it's like, how do people like do this? And this is why We Are Makers come around, was because of my struggles as a maker.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah,
it's really hard.
We need to talk about it more, really.
Have you come to a conclusion with it yet? As to why, do you know why you do it? Why you
I think
work
I
to
do.
save?
I started working when I was 13 and like worked all through uni. So like similarly, like just out the way and work. And all both my mum and my dad and my stepmom and my stepdad are all self-employed. And I've seen them work like really, really hard. And at times in my life I've been like pretty skint. Like I moved out when I was 16 and like had to do a lot of like working when I was that age. So I've got this like fear of being skint because it really sucked. And I think even like, I think the business is quite successful now. I'm making like what I think is like loads of money, but it's actually probably like below the national average. But to me, it's like, oh my God, so much money. And I think I'm like worried it's not going to last. And I don't trust that I'll get work again. Do you know what I mean? We're getting real deep here.
Yeah.
But I think it was like, oh God, I've got to make hay while the sun shines and like make the
I've
most
got
of
that
it.
attitude.
Yeah, it's hard. I think as well, if you've like not got a family with loads of money, that you kind of have to like, there's not really a huge safety net. So I think there's a part of that. But it sounds like a good thing, like, oh, you're good at saving and earning loads of money and working really hard, but actually it's like really unhealthy in a lot of ways. And I've seen how it impacts like friends. Like I don't get to hang out with my friends as much as I want, and like my partner puts up with a lot and like is so patient. And there have been many times when he's just like had a little nap at like 12 at midnight here while I'm working.
Really?
God bless him. Yeah, he's so good. And
That's
like,
good.
I can't keep asking to do that. I can't keep being that person.
Yeah.
It's his turn to be the unstable, busy one, and I've got to be the stable person for a while. So, yeah, I don't know.
I'd be interested to see when you come to the end of that what your view is, and if you can answer the question, because we've been trying for, and I say it's been a joint effort to try and answer the question for me for probably about a year, and I still can't answer why it is.
It's hard because we're also like, I think as a West Coast sort of Presbyterian upbringing, that like hard work is good for you, and even if you're like reading a book, it better be like an educational book. Don't slack off.
I also think there's this, and go back to the love-hate relationship with social media. Like all as we ever see with that short-form content is like hustle. Like, and there is a lot of people that are on the. I go back to Odin Leatherworks out in Austin, Texas, and Bill Wiak. Houston, Texas, sorry, and Bill Wiak in Atlanta, Georgia, like two leather workers that are visibly hustle, grind. They both still, I know Odin does, I'm pretty sure Bill does as well. They still work their consulting jobs as well as, might be wrong about Bill, but I know Odin definitely does. Like he works a day job, but also has a team doing the leather work, and then he does the leather work at night, and it's like hustle, grind. And everything we see on social media is like extracts from podcasts about someone being like, you just need to work. And I'm like, man.
There's so much more to life though. Like that's so boring.
Yeah.
I think I'm just getting bored of working all the time. I think that's where it's happened to me. Is it like I noticed I was starting to like fall out of love with the bin, and I was like, oh, it's just like
That's
sick
when
of
it
it.
gets
Aye.
bad, is when you start falling out of love.
Have you had that?
Not well, just frustration.
You definitely had that when you were doing your furniture business.
Yeah, I did.
You fell out of love with it because of the frustration.
Yeah. And you work so hard for like what return, or like sometimes, don't know.
It also becomes part of you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And like we're so much more than just makers. Like we are makers, but we're also other things.
Well, that's what we liked about We Are Makers. We want to hear you and your story. Like,
Yeah, that was the view,
The
is to
person
come at
behind.
it from who the person is, not the... Like, it'd be all well and good me sitting down with a podcast and be like, talk through bookbinding. But you could go and Google how to book, or buy these cracking courses, but I want to know who the people are behind it.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to see that. We've just gone totally off topic. I can't even remember what we're talking about, but the coaching thing seems really interesting.
So I was approached to like curate the small groups. I don't know if it's going to be happening again, but I'll certainly mention you to Sandy, because I'm sure you're on our radar already.
Hope so. Fingers crossed.
But I'm sure, she's, for sure. But it's been really interesting. Also, because you're in small, I'm just like waffling here now, because I spend a lot of time with myself. I like working by myself. I thought that a group would be like, other people, like I hate working in teams, but actually it's been really useful because it's kind of like you're all in therapy together for 2 hours, and people have been really upfront and honest and open, and seeing the things that other people are thinking about themselves. Like people who like, we've all signed confidentiality, but there's like people in there who I think are like absolutely amazing, and you know, they'll be thinking like, oh God. I don't know, just like hearing their insecurities, and it's like, oh God, you're fucking shit hot. Why are you thinking like that?
But they're probably thinking the same about you.
I don't know, we're all just like, everyone seems to be like jazzing themselves, and sometimes people just aren't jazzed, man.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear that.
There's definitely a Scottish aspect to that as well.
For
just
sure.
being like super self-deprecating.
You'll see it when you go to the States a bit, because they have a different attitude.
Oh, like
they're all the best at anything.
That's why we're going back at it.
It's amazing. It's so cool. Because they're just like, no, I'm the best at this.
Must make your job easy as well, because they were like, I want to show you this thing that I'm really good at. And we were all like, oh no, don't look at my shitty things.
Yeah. We're like, oh no, this is just the wee thing that I've been working for like 6 months on. It's just this wee thing in the background. And they're like, I done this yesterday. It's fucking amazing. And
I just can't imagine.
But I buy into it so much that I'm like, do you know what? You believe it's amazing? I believe it's amazing.
That's how it works
I'm
though.
in.
It's all...
Yeah, it's positive mental attitude.
And I also think the people that buy into the fact that they believe in themselves so much. Like, I see successful makers, and I think the commonality between all of the successful makers I've seen that are making a good living out of it, there's obviously, they're all making a living out of it because they're all doing it full time, but the ones that are really stepping above the parapet and are more noticeable, whether they're making more money or not, but they're more noticeable, are the ones that have just bought into themselves. That are just like, I'm the shit.
Yeah, I couldn't possibly
Need to
say
hype
that.
yourself up because who else is?
It's true. It's true. I have got better at like taking compliments about my stuff, but I don't know.
You just
I just think it builds a
much.
confidence for them, like, say it enough and it becomes truth, you know what I mean? It builds a self-build confidence. And I wonder if they're the ones that have got it right, because they're like, well, no one else is going to tell them. Like you said, Kate.
Do you think that would work here though? Like if a Scottish maker is like, yeah, I'm the shit, look at how great I am.
No, you get punched in the pub.
Exactly. So like, would you get any sales? Maybe people expect a little self-deprecating, yeah, I'm shit, but go and buy it.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. Like, I don't think it would float here.
It's interesting though, because it really works out there, doesn't it?
It really works. And being out there filled with just this like immense positivity about whatever they're doing. They could be making knitting needles and they're like, but these are the best knitting needles in the world. And I'm like, sign me up, subscribe me, 1 a month.
It's amazing how the people around you, how they actually affect you. Like, you need to be around those positive people, and then you start to become that positive person. If you're surrounded by negative people and people who are just not your vibe, like, really,
So true.
You're not yourself, are you?
Yeah.
Working in a place like that, does that help this? Are you quite... So we're in a shared studio at the moment.
Where Regina's.
Where Regina's just down the road, who we podcasted with. We actually end up in this neck of Glasgow quite a lot.
Yeah.
Quite a lot of artists around here, aren't there?
Maverick Pipes is just round the road. Fioc Watches is just down the road. Does it help being in a crate? Could you do this in a shed in your back garden?
I'm thinking about this just now because I want to live rurally, and also I'm thinking, like, could I just work in a shed by myself?
I think you probably could.
I could, but I wonder if I go a little bit crazy. I don't know.
I wonder if we went a bit star crazy.
I think so. I think because
you seem perfectly normal to me.
That's maybe the problem. Maybe we're all a bit star crazy.
I've got like, I mean, I don't see people all that often here, but you bump into people in the corridor, or someone will pop in, or I've got like my good friend Alice, who's a tailor. You should also talk to her, she's very good. Upstairs.
I think I'm going to just do a week round this.
Oh, there's so many good people here. Oh my god, there's an arch dyer upstairs. There's like...
just get herself a wee unit.
There's Deborah, who's got like long arm quilting machine over there. There's Jen, who's a calligrapher. All stories. I'll just like give you a list of people. But I still like have lunch on my own, have coffee by myself. But every so often you pop in and see someone else.
It's just nice to know they're there.
Exactly.
I wonder if that's what it is. It's just nice to know they're there.
Yeah.
Because we live, 20 minutes away from Glasgow, but we're reasonably out in the sticks. And I do wonder if there's a I think we're all like, I like to just hash it out myself, and I'm just this lonely being, and I'm like, are you? Are you actually, Jack?
Don't move, man.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm just going to grind it out myself, and I'm like, but are you? Are you really?
I suppose you're seeing so many people though, and you're like...
We are now.
Yeah.
We are now. This is definitely the good side to the podcast.
Because obviously the book is me just like over
Right.
emails or over like interviews and whatever, so we don't actually see them. But this podcast is just like a whole new aspect
world,
to it, where we're actually going out and meeting people and getting to know more about them.
Yeah.
You ever done any work with any other creatives? Like worked on any books together? I know obviously they send you their pages and their illustrations and stuff, but have you ever done any
Proper collaborations?
Yeah.
I've never done a straight collaboration where we both work on something together. I don't think, unless there's like someone who I have done one with and they'll listen to this and be like, oh my God, remember me, Gillian? But I've got some brain. I suppose like the process of working with creatives can be kind of collaborative, because they'll be like, oh, I kind of like this, what about this? And I'll be like, oh, maybe try this, blah, blah, blah.
Right, okay.
But not specific.
I've not done a straight collaboration.
But the general doing it is collaborative in itself.
But like a straight, I suppose I think of collaborations as like, oh, you both put the same effort in and then you sell it and you split it somehow. And like that aspect of like splitting money and like work effort is what scares me about a straight up collaboration.
Yeah, I hear that. I hear that. It's like university projects, isn't it? You never
Oh
done
my
as
God,
much as me.
yeah,
You're hard work.
100%, yeah.
You
So,
always get that person
Everyone's
that
got
didn't do
that
anything.
story, isn't it? Like we had that guy that just never turned up.
yeah.
Got half the mark. Like,
Yeah, and I grew up with 5 siblings, so I'm like, fairness is so important to me, and like everyone needs to not be equal, and I work really hard, so I expect everyone to work really hard. This is why I should never hire anyone.
It's hard to hire people though. Like, find someone who's on the same wavelength as you and loves what you do just as much.
Yeah, I think I could do with hiring someone to help with like admin and like social media and all the boring stuff that I don't want to do.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But
someone just to run the business and you do the creative bit.
yes, please.
Yeah.
I want someone to be my manager.
Oh, yeah.
We've talked about this. Like, could you just find like a business manager?
Yeah.
I don't know how. Hopefully, someone's listening to this and being like, I know the exact guy.
Yeah.
I don't know how difficult that would be, because they need to understand what the business is to you. But then there's also an amount of it that's like they just need to understand business.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer.
It's hard. You kind of have to be your own manager.
Yeah.
But yeah, one of the things we were doing last night in this coaching was thinking about like who's on your board of directors, and you have like a marketing person, an HR person, like a consultant, a finance person, and thinking about who makes the decisions when. I was like, my marketing person is like on maternity leave right now, and my HR person's only part-time and they're not looking after staff. And it's really funny to think about like who's running your business, because it's all you. You're all the people all at once.
Yeah.
And actually, like, my business is so personal to me that I don't actually know if I could have a manager come in and tell me what to do. I've changed my mind. I don't want that idea.
You don't want that idea. Change that.
I've changed my mind.
So what about when you're setting this up? Like, I look around and there's not so much just the cost of getting all the press and stuff, but actually finding this stuff must be difficult.
Really hard. You can do quite a lot with just like a workbench and some hand tools, and that's how most bookbinders start out. The first big bit of kit I got was that guillotine behind you, so it cuts. You can put a whole book in there or cut a book edge in one fell swoop. The one to the left, the ugly one. Yep, that ugly grey thing in the corner.
The machinery looking one, not the Art Nouveau machinery looking one.
And I got that from a print shop that was closing down in Edinburgh, and I got it for a bargain. It was like £250, and they're usually like £1,000 upwards.
Oh, nice.
That was hell of a bargain. But I got it, and I didn't really have a studio space, and I didn't have a way to get it back from Edinburgh, so my mum very kindly drove a Luton van back with it. And
Good old mums.
got loads of people to wrangle it into the van for me. Other bits and pieces I picked up as I've gone on, like some are from eBay, some are from like specialist suppliers. Some, Tom McEwen, who I learned from, sorted me out with a board chopper and a book press and a few wee bits when I was starting out, which was very nice of them. So it tends to be through other bookbinders, or they'll just come up, but it can be a slow process. I think I'm impatient, and I was really wanting to just get as many things as I could that I needed as soon as I could. So I went quite hard getting all the things I wanted. But now I've there's a few wee bits I could get, but I've kind of got everything I'll need.
Yeah.
But it can be quite a lot to get all the bits to start out with. And they're heavy, they're really heavy.
Yeah, big machinery.
If I was going to do it in a shed, I'd need like a reinforced joists or something.
Just lay it on a concrete slab.
Yeah, I couldn't do it in like a spare room in a house because it would probably collapse the floor.
Aye.
But no matter how many surfaces I have, it's never enough. They're quite empty and tidy just now, but usually they've got lots of things on them.
Aye.
Busy.
Yeah.
Full of work.
But yeah, it's the sort of thing that I would struggle to do to this capacity, like from a home studio, in a flat or something. And also I just can't work from home.
Yeah.
I just snack.
I just snack.
That's the reality of it. Yeah, anyone looking to work from home or have a home studio, put the fridge somewhere else.
Oh my God, I know my partner is a building standards officer and he works from home and he is like literally next to the fridge. I'm like, I don't know how you do that. Yep. I don't know how you do that.
Too many distractions.
Iron will.
Yeah.
When you're starting out, is there an amount of it that's like, or maybe the better question is, is there an amount of binding that you can't do at the moment? Like, what's the next step of binding that you maybe can't do with this kit?
That's a good question.
Or is it more a skill-based limit?
I would quite like a larger foil blocking press where I could do like A4 sized plates and upwards. Right now I can do about A5 sized and there's some restrictions. I'd quite like that, but I'm not missing out from not having that actually. There's some sewing machines that you can get, but they're kind of huge.
Sewing machines are quite big, aren't they?
Aye, it's one that is like this size and you put sections in and it sews them. But there's somewhere in Glasgow that I can just outsource that to if I need to.
Oh, cool.
Because that would take up quite a lot of space and be expensive. So I don't do a lot of outsourcing because I'm like, I want to have control over everything. Yeah. But
do you think that's healthy?
I think in some ways, I've got a brain where I just worry about the worst case scenario. I'm like, what's the worst case if I take on these prints from this person that they paid for and then the person that I outsource it to messes it up and then it's all on me? I feel like I'd rather just pass it directly. So if anything goes tits up, it's nothing to do with me. But a lot of people outsource and like skim 10% off the top as like a management fee, which I probably should do, but I don't want to. I think there's limitations. If you want to grow your business, then you probably have to outsource several things at some point. But I don't know if I want to grow my business. I'm quite happy with the stage it is. I don't really feel
that's fine.
That's a good place to be as well. Yeah, to just be happy.
I feel like you have to go to that next.
Yeah, bigger, faster, more money, bigger, and I quite like it's just now. Yeah. But there's a job of 50 books I'm about to do, and it's not anything particularly exciting or challenging. So I'm going to outsource the sewing of that, and I'll do the rest. I can do most things. Yeah, the next step up from this level of bindery would be like more machinery to sew things. But I can do most things.
That's good. That's good to not because I know there's a whole section of makers that are in various different crafts that's like, I want to do this bit, but I can't get X.
Good questions, yeah.
Or like leather workers, for example, where they may want to do, I look at like Artie, who does gym belts. His clicker press wasn't working. Clicker press, it's a big piece of machinery, big hydraulic press job. If you never had that, or in the time it wasn't working, your hand cutting, very laborious. And I look at a lot of things and it's like, I'd hate to be in a position where I was limited by not being able to make X, Y, or Z because I can't find the machinery. Not even just can't afford it, but when you look at certain old machinery, like physically cannot get it. Yeah. You look at Ben's sewing machines, like if they go tits up, there's only a couple of people left in the world that can that can make those parts.
Yeah, that's wild. I think I was like that before I got this board chopper. So this is for cutting bits of board, which is like 3mm thick. It's what lots of books are made of in boxes. And it's quite hard to cut with a knife and ruler, and that's just how you have to do it until you get a board chopper. So board chopper is so much quicker, more accurate. So I did feel frustrated before I had that. Before I had the foil blocking presses, I was like, I really need a foil blocking press. But no, I think I've got... It's a good question, yeah, because I do have actually most of what I need.
That's good.
Which is good. It's also fun to buy new things, isn't it? And go shopping. But actually, I can't justify getting anything else.
There's definitely part of being a maker that's just like, I want the nice stuff.
Yeah. Oh my God. Have you been on workshop heaven? That's just amazing.
Yeah, exactly. So what about San Francisco? You spent some time out there, didn't you?
Yeah. Oh, it was amazing. It was amazing. I was there for a residency at an artist book and printmaking studio called Incouts. And that was a 1 month residency split over like 2 weeks and then 2 weeks off and then 2 weeks back just because of like COVID rescheduling. That's how we did it. And I thought, well, if I'm going all the way over there, why don't I just like hang out and meet some book people and go to some book stuff? So that's what I did. And it was class.
Made the most of it.
So good. So good. I'm still in a huff.
You're still in a huff.
Really not. No, it was really amazing.
When did you go?
A while ago. Yeah, it was like, was it September to November last year. So like 8 weeks in total, and it was amazing. because there's just such a concentration of like book artists and
Really, in San
book arts
Francisco?
yeah.
Where does
and, like,
that come from? Is it like a historical book?
great question.
You know,
I
you find
don't
these
know.
places that like historically have those crafts going on.
I couldn't work out why. The States in general has like, you can go and do a degree in bookbinding over there.
Oh, really?
At North Bennett Street School. I don't know if you guys know about them, but they also they do lots of craft teaching.
Right.
Check them
North
out.
Bennett Street.
North Bennett Street in, I couldn't tell you what state they're in. Do a bookbinding degree. And I don't know why, there's the Northwest as well, like near Seattle, there's an amazing book arts collection that Cynthia Sears runs. There's a really good letterpress publishers called Arian Press in San Francisco, where they cast the type, they print the book, they commission the illustrations, they bind it, and then they melt all the type down afterwards. It's amazing. And there's the San Francisco Centre for the Book, which is like a open access book art studio that have like really high class tutors from around the world. They do a really cool thing called Roadworks, where they print outside on the street using a steamroller. Like
No way.
Okay.
Steamroller. Yeah, it's really cool. I don't know what it is. But it's quite unique. It's got such a concentration. There's a book arts fair called Codex, which is like the best. I'd say the best in the world. Really high quality bookbinders from across the world.
Right.
I love
So I
how
don't know what it
every
is.
like craft has its little like niche,
Little
like
niche
pens
inside it, a
and
little community.
bookbinding, and it's just amazing.
Yeah.
That's definitely a thing about the States just being so big. Like the pen world community, like all of those things, and there's just like, but there is so many people. I think there's more people in the US than there is in Europe.
Wow. Yeah. So
It's
if you have that
definitely
many
bigger.
people,
Yeah.
there'll be like, there's going to be like more people just if they're a percentage of the population that are into this niche thing,
Yeah.
and therefore that helps feed a bigger community, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so. It definitely keeps things alive.
And also, they're really excited about Scottish people. So everyone's, I mean, I'm sure they'd be lovely anyway, but they're like, oh my God, you're Scottish. That's sick. You're obviously amazing. Before I did
easier.
anything, it made it very easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we felt that when we were there, and it was.
Oh, they must love you guys.
Oh, it was wicked.
I know, you're kind of ginger as well. They'd be like, extra double stoked.
The like big Scottish lad comes over to talk to Americans. Sign me up.
You're pretty much born American, really.
I love it. I love the
You could just
culture. I love
take
the
you here and go
space. I love the food, like barbecue. I love big trucks. A total diesel head, petrol head, like all of those things. It just
He's not quite got himself a cowboy boots yet and hat, but
I won't wear
Oh,
cowboy
there's
boots.
time.
I like work boots. I like lace ups. I don't like slide ons. I like lace ups. Sturdy.
Oh, there you go. I didn't the time
There
those
you are.
things.
There's a whole thing about boots, man. Like, boots are. I follow so many bootmakers. Like, so many bootmakers on my Instagram feed. It's just going
Oh
through
man,
it. It's
wouldn't it be so nice
good.
to have a handmade pair of boots just made for you?
Almost as nice as having a handmade book just
They-
made for you.
Almost.
Mate, do you want? Oh, we should get an edition 1 done. We've still got one edition 1. We are makers.
Oh, rebound.
Aye, that'd be good.
Wouldn't that be good?
well, that is actually a good idea.
Let's see if it's possible, because it's perfect bound at the minute, like the glue spine.
Yeah. So it doesn't. Maybe does it open totally flat, or does it have a little bit in the thing?
It's like 21 mil wide, so I don't know if it opens totally flat. I need to check.
But if not, you can rebind it. I'd be honoured to do that.
Yeah. Want to get it done. Want to get you it for your Christmas. what's your lead time? What year? Christmas, what year? That'd be cool.
Oh, I don't say I'm bad. I don't like someone can give me a mad deadline. I'd probably say yeah, I'll do it.
That's a problem, eh?
Don't do that, please, because I just say yes.
I know.
I was texting a guy I'm doing some design work for at the moment. And he's like, "Oh, I've got a show in August." I'm like, "Yeah, we can get that done." And then I deleted the WhatsApp, and I was like, "We can get that done if."
Yeah.
Because immediately I'm just like, yeah. And I'm like trying to teach myself out of that, which is hard.
You got to say no to some things, don't you?
Aye.
Yeah.
That's hard as a maker,
It is
eh?
hard. I've been encouraged to make a list of like the criteria that a job has to fit for me to take it on right now.
Okay.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
What does that criteria look like?
So it's got to pay okay.
Priority.
It's got to, they have to have a reasonable idea of what they want, because I think with being bespoke, it can be quite overwhelming for the client, and often people want to see every option of everything, and that can just take so much admin time.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have a quick way to do that. And it's got to be interesting.
Yep.
And not a super tight deadline.
That makes sense.
My-
So it's got to pay okay, so you've set like a base minimum per hour,
Yeah.
and you know roughly your hours, presumably. The they need to know what they want. So how do you get round that, they not knowing what they want? Do you have like a sample book, or do you have a website they can check?
I've got a website with past examples and some information. What I have been trying to get finished for like 4 years is like a PDF guide of like, these are different types of binding, these are the materials, here's some examples. And it's just such a boring task that is just like, does not take priority.
Fiverr.
Really?
I've been trying.
I've never used it.
I've been trying for 4 years to do a showreel from some of the film work I've done. And it's everything for like, I've worked on the Batmobile, to doors on Star Wars, to dinosaurs on Jurassic World. And I'm like, how do I communicate this? And now I'm at a point where loads of the films have come out, so I can share the stuff and I can share the test footage that we've got. And years I've been talking about, banging on at you about, I need to do this, $5 or 35 quid.
One of those things on your to-do list that just never happened.
Wicked. It was like 35 quid. The guy, I think he was Indian, and I paid like 20 quid express. He done it in 24 hours. He was really, really good to talk back and forward with. Made a wicked showreel that I could put on my website. And I think I ended up tipping him like the same money again, because I was like, this was wicked.
Wow.
Well done. And I've been talking about this. So I just had like a Dropbox folder that I'd been saving stuff to for years. I just sent him the link to the Dropbox folder. It says, make me a cool, snappy, quick showreel. Don't put any logos on it because it's going in the background of a website, so the logos will be the website side. And he came back with a first pass, and I was like, yep, like that, but can you put more concentration on these clips? Done. It was so good.
I just need to do it, don't I? It's that thing with like, when you do so much yourself, you're like, oh, it will save money if I do it myself, but then it just doesn't get done.
This is our
But
problem.
like, his base price was 35 quid. I was like, that would have taken me a day or two at least to do something half as good.
Right, okay, no, that's good, that gives me encouragement. Because that would make it easier it would make the process easier for clients as well if they just had something you could look at and be like, oh, these are my options.
It's so difficult to offload certain stuff though.
It is.
Like, as a maker.
You know it. I mean, I use Canva a lot as well for just templates, for that example.
But that still involves Gillian sitting down and doing it.
I know, but if you feel that you want to still do it yourself, like there is templates out there that you can use, you don't have to start from scratch.
That's a good shout, actually. That's maybe like the middle ground as well.
There's also a world where you do that as a first pass, isn't there, and then send it to someone so they get an idea.
You get an idea of what you want.
Yeah, just like a Word doc of like all the information I need put nicely on something.
I think it's one of the biggest bear traps as a maker that you end up standing in is, I'll do it because no one will understand it like me. It's like, they might not understand it like you, but there is people that can do the editing better, or that can do the X, Y, Z better.
Yeah.
So if I give them like the copy, someone else could do it. Yes, I just need to do it. Yeah.
I was really impressed with Fiverr on it. Really impressed.
Good shout. Yeah, thanks. I'll
Make
check.
your life easier.
It would make my life easier.
And you pay it all through Fiverr, and it's all like super secure as well, which is nice.
That is good. Yeah, it would just be nice to just be able to send it over
There you
and
go.
hope. Like, do you know Risotto, the risograph studio in Glasgow?
Pasta.
You know? Oh, a really cool risograph design studio. They did that poster.
Oh yeah. I've seen that poster a few places.
Aye.
I think Cecilia Stamp's got one, and has Regine Dedham maybe got one?
Aye,
as well?
she's got one. Yeah.
Quite
a few people here have got one. They have a really good print guide where it's just like, obviously they've just had to answer the same question a million times, and it just gives you all
like an FAQ kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's just like, I want something like that.
Aye.
I just want something like a one-stop shop. It's hard though, because I think people, when they come to Maker, they want that like one-to-one contact, and they want to feel like they're buying from you and get your input as well. But if they had like a starting point of like some information,
that would decide whether they want to continue.
Aye.
Yeah, because I think that's the most difficult part of the bespoke ordering process, is like, it can take a lot of time to show all the options.
And then if you don't go ahead, it's like...
Exactly, you just wasted some time, yeah.
I know, it's that balance of, is it worth it or not?
So...
You'll never know if you don't try it.
I know. So
it's
that's
hard that way.
It is hard, but it's been on my list for like, honestly, before COVID, and I've just not done it. I've been very naughty.
We all have.
There's loads of things like that you just don't get around to.
You can't do it all.
And I think it's okay to just be like, there's things I don't get around to.
Yeah, and it's not the end of the world. It could be worse. If I wasn't like doing my tax return, that would be a problem, but worst case scenario.
We're busy with that.
Yeah, I had to do a VAT return. I say I had to do it. You done most of it last night. Kate's good at just churning through them.
It's boring as sin.
It is boring as sin. And all you're doing is like clicking more buttons, and every time you click a button, it's like, there's more money I'm due there, more money I'm due there. It's just soul destroying, man.
Oh no.
But anyway, that's for someone's more financially literate podcast than it is mine.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So what's next? You're going to take 3 months off to explore some new stuff. Do you think that opens up new, and you're going to do it now because you've said it, do you think that opens up new possibilities of what you're going to do, or?
I don't know. I found, again, going back to this coaching thing, they've asked us to think about what's in the future and what you want, and I've always had this thing where I find it really hard to like picture something for myself. Like if someone's like, what is your dream scenario for your future? I'm like, I just see like a big, not like a sad, depressed way, but it's just like I don't really see anything. I kind of ended up doing this by accident, like without a structure. It's just kind of happened. And so I don't know, which makes it difficult to point towards something if you don't have a picture of what you want. How do you make it? But I don't know. I'd like to be a fellow at some point in my future of DB, but that's quite a long way off. But that's what I'm aiming for. More teaching, more fun books, less boring jobs don't pay enough.
Yeah. That comes with reputation though.
Yeah.
What are the criteria for becoming that fellow? Like how far away are you realistically from it?
To become a licentiate, you have to bring 2 bindings to a meeting in London, and you lay them out on a table along with your sketchbooks, maybe photographs, all this stuff, and then I think there were 19 fellows who came to the meeting for me. You go to a room next door and then they talk about your work.
While you're not in the room?
While you're not in the room, but you can hear them.
Oh, right, okay.
In my case, you can hear them. And Tom was there at mine and he taught me, so asking him lots of questions. And then they bring you back in and ask you questions about like, why is this end paper so thick and what do you want to do and why is this wrong?
Sounds scary.
Oh, it's awful. It's so bad. And then, but it's good that they have high standards, and then a week later you get a letter and they tell you if you got it or not. And if you want to become a fellow, it's that same process, but you need more bindings, and they're even more, they're even stricter.
Right.
So once you made it to a fellow, you know that you're pretty well.
You're pretty good.
Yeah. You've really been judged by the best people in the UK.
And then you get to judge other people as one of the best people in the UK.
But so that's what I like to aim towards. So there's a few paths you can take. Once you're a licentiate, you have 7 years to apply for fellowship.
Okay.
They added on an extra year for COVID, so I got mine in 2019, so I've got not that much longer left. I got until 2017? No, is that right?
2027.
2017.
Is that right? Probably
2027,
not.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
7 years plus 1 year, yeah.
Aye, thank you. So that's not that far away.
Is it not?
I feel like the last 4 years.
How many book bindings do you get through in a year?
So
I suppose that's what dictates it, doesn't it?
Aye. So actually, I would usually do like 2 or 3 a year, but last year I did about 20 because I had it.
2 or 3 book bindings a year?
That's what. Well, because so it depends on your orders. So if you're a bookbinder who has a big order list and you're very established, you can do loads and you'll just be doing those. But I'm not doing these to commission. They're going for exhibition. They might not sell. They probably won't sell because I'm new and people don't know me and they're not perfect.
Right.
So it's hard to justify taking the time out of paid work to make something that takes a lot of time and the materials are expensive that you might never sell.
So that's 2 or 3. Right, so they have to be done specifically for this, don't they? They can't be ones that you're going to sell, because the ones you're going to sell have to hoof it to whoever you're selling to.
It depends. So these ones are made like speculatively for competitions or exhibitions, and you hope that a collector sees it and goes, "Oh, I like that, I'll buy that." Which happens sometimes, but hasn't happened that much to me. I've just sold one to Edinburgh University, so that's lovely. Nice. But through that's how this company in the States heard of me, and then they got 10 from me. They're all the same. So
it's an advertising loss.
Aye, so it's worked.
So if we speak to anybody, we'll tell them all about you.
Aye. Yeah.
In the States.
Don't let listen to us because I feel I'm really unprofessional and like too candid. So I did like 20 last year, which was amazing practice. Built my confidence quite a lot.
Solely for you that weren't briefed, there were just 20 of?
No, half of them were for this company in the States and they were all the same.
Okay.
And the rest were for like competitions and exhibitions and stuff.
Right.
So it's hard. I guess it's like any artwork where you just make it and hope someone buys it. It feels very much like I feel like painters must feel the same way where they paint something that they might never sell, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It can be difficult because that's like a big stack there that I've not sold. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear
and
that.
That's just what you've got to do at the start of this industry, which is actually really difficult because it's a big time sink. You've got to spend time learning when you're not earning.
You've got to prove yourself that you can do it and show your work. So it's your portfolio though, isn't it?
Is it hard to motivate yourself to do those jobs?
It can be sometimes. I only ever do them to a very short deadline because I'm usually having to do other work for money. So I'll have like a job that I've had to take on to pay the bills. I can't justify saying no to things often to do these. So it has at times been difficult from that point of view. Creatively, I'm dying to get stuck in and like I really want to make them, and I've got ideas that I want to do and things I want to realise, but it's just like the business side. But I'm feeling a bit more secure now.
Good.
Money's doing pretty okay at the moment, so I feel like I can take some time off to just do some work for me, and if it doesn't sell, I'm kind of okay with that. I'm not going to be like homeless. Whereas like a few years ago, I definitely couldn't have afforded to take time out of work in that way.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. That's good that you got to that point where you feel.
It's a pretty big point to get to, isn't it? Like as a maker, it's quite.
You're proud of yourself.
It's nice. Thank you very much. Thank you. I know. Well, I think I lived off of like 11 grand a year for like a lot of years.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so I know I can do it on like nothing. So
Yeah.
Worst case scenario, you can just get a job in a pub, can't you? So it's not happened yet. You never know though.
Yeah.
Well, you're doing all right.
Aye.
Thanks very much.
What would you do if you knew you couldn't fail?
Oh fuck, that's a good question. In anything?
Yeah.
In book? Oh god, okay.
Anything. This is Gillian Stewart's podcast, not JUJU Books podcast.
Okay, wait, what would you feel? I don't know, because I said if I win the lottery I'd still make books, but that's a different question. I don't know, it's this thing where I'm picturing things and I don't have a good imagination for possibilities. I'd probably just go on a big old solo trip and not worry about things going wrong on all the weird places I go to. That sounds like a really boring explanation. That keeps happening.
What is it?
I think it's like a window upstairs that someone's opening. Anyway. What have other people said? That feels like a really unimaginative answer.
This is the second question.
This is the second day I've asked the question. Florian said he would still make pots.
Yeah.
I would still, if I won the lottery, I genuinely would still be making books. And I feel like very lucky to say that I would still do my job.
You could take a year out and then go back to making books.
Oh, would I take a sabbatical? Because they do that in the States, only take sabbaticals. No. I would take a sabbatical, yeah, and just make books for myself.
You said you would go like travelling and work and stuff. Where would you go?
I really want to go to Japan. They got cool books, cool paper.
I knew that's what was coming.
Great crafts.
Because whenever I look at bookbinding, having like discovered you and went more down that rabbit hole, it's like you very quickly get into Japan, and then you go like I'm fascinated by Japan. Like
they do everything better, don't they?
Aye, and I don't know if I want to.
Yeah,
he done an apprenticeship
He's just been over there, yeah.
And
oh, nice.
Everyone we've spoke to that's ever touched down, Lucky B, David Bond, he does a lot of sign writing out in Japan, and everyone I've ever spoke to there just. But I don't know if we're ready to go yet. For two reasons. One, I don't know if we can do it the justice it deserves yet. And two, I get this impression that they're more reserved and they're just like, just do a good thing. I'm just doing my thing. And I'm like, but you don't understand how amazing this is. I find that quite frustrating in people when they don't understand how. I don't want to be on a podcast. I'm like, no, you're brilliant. You know?
It's funny, isn't it? It's a very different attitude. Because they have like living treasures out there, don't they? Where people are their treasures.
Yeah.
Then they'd
Who was the swordsmith we done? Hiratasha?
I can't pronounce it.
I'm sure it's Hiratasha swordsmiths, and I'm sure they've got living treasures. And they still make samurai swords like the very traditional way, and stuff like that just fascinates me. When they're like, no, we're doing it. Like, yes, we know there's better ways to do it, but this is how you do it. Like, those aren't the same. That fascinates me.
Yeah, everything just done like really the most time-consuming way possible.
Yeah.
But because that's the highest quality way to do it. Yeah, their paper is different out there. Their books.
Papercraft's a whole thing out there, isn't it?
Yeah, and the paper they make is like so thin but so strong. Yeah, I would go there. I would go there, and it's also like it's a safe place to go, as like a solo female traveller.
Yeah. That means your partner's getting left behind.
He'd love it because he used to be a joiner.
Oh, okay.
He's right into Japanese carpentry, and also he's really into like camping and fishing. And there's Japanese do camping very luxuriously.
They do fishing very well.
Yeah, so I take
everything well.
They do everything well, don't they? Yeah. You never know, guys. Maybe next year you'll be there.
Maybe Japanese Tourist Board, if you're listening to this. Do you have any funding lying about? Kate, do you want to do your roundup question?
Yeah.
This hasn't felt like a podcast, eh?
No.
That's nice. Yeah, I feel like just been chatting.
Yeah, it's the best one.
Just shooting the shit.
What advice would you give your younger self?
Ooh. I think if I was starting out at the business, from the business side of things, keep an eye on the money and like don't be afraid to ask for things and like don't be afraid to ask for help and just be a bit cheeky.
I love it.
I think so. Just like keep going because it's going to be fine.
Yeah, it's good advice. It's good advice.
Keep going because it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
That's a good note to end on, to wrap up on.
Laura on our last podcast was saying, you know, she nearly gave up. Like
She did. She kind
I
of
saw that.
quiet quit, to use the currently overused term.
yeah, and it's
Quiet quit, and then was just like, nah. Someone asked her to do a bag when she decided she was quitting, and then someone else asked her, and she was like, oh, I don't think she ever really got around to quitting.
Oh really? Whoopsie, here I am.
Aye.
still here.
Years later, I'm still here,
That's
which
funny.
is cool.
Well, thanks very much for your time today.
Mate, I've enjoyed it.
It's
Thanks
been
for-
really lovely.
Oh, wait, now, we're no finished yet.
What?
Magnets.
Oh, yeah. Oh, do you want to see the
Bookbinding and
box?
magnets.
Yeah. Did we get this on camera?
No, we
We've
didn't.
not yet.
Oh,
We've
well.
not even talked about magnets yet.
Aye, so they can hinge, they can attach things, they can, I'll show you this one over here, they can act as like little closure things that hold things in place. They're just another tactile
It's a really nice.
experience.
It's a really nice box.
That's cool, isn't it?
It's
Yeah.
satisfying, eh?
It's just very neat and you can sort of sync them so you can't feel them or see them.
Yeah.
That's very satisfying.
Is that a newer thing for you, doing the magnet side of things?
I learned how to do them on one of these courses I did with Fresh and Libro before COVID, and it's something that I've kind of snuck into projects when I can, but I want to do more. I want to do more with magnets.
So if anyone's listening to this that wants a book bound,
Oh, aye.
you want
stick
it
a
bound
magnet.
with a magnet in.
Stick a magnet in.
Be fancy.
Yeah, it just feels like luxy and
It feels finished, like it feels closed. It's the same way as the air vacuum as you close the other ones and the slight dud, like it feels closed.
yeah, it feels secure.
Aye,
It's safe.
I get it.
And it's aye. You just get to be like millimetre. You can sort of see.
Is
what
it the
you're doing.
accuracy that attracts you?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's wicked.
It's funny because I didn't think I was. It wasn't until I started working at the Bookbinders I was like, oh, I like measuring things, and I'm like, I like that sort of thing. But I never thought of myself like maybe it's like going to school and I'm like a chick that I was never, I don't know, encouraged to do woodwork or engineering.
Aye,
Yeah.
But
there's an
actually,
amount of that.
but
I found it really difficult to get. I employed another couple of guys to work with me, and I found it really difficult to look for female engineers. And it's actually one thing my team's lacking. We do a lot of really, really fast work, and I do feel I've got one lad now who's really detail orientated, but I was specifically looking for a female engineer because I feel that the few that I've spoke to are like very minutiae detail orientated.
It's a shame I'm not very good with that because I am very particular, but not with engineering.
And that's exactly what it was. Like I see how Kate looks at some of the minutiae that I would overlook, and sometimes they're the things that catch my team out.
There we go.
But yeah,
there we go.
where do people find out about you?
You can check my website, JUJU Books, jujubooks.co.uk, or on Instagram, I'm at juju.books.
Where did JUJU Books come from, by the way?
Oh
my
yeah, I
God,
was gonna
it's like a
ask you that.
placeholder name. Like, see, fucking picking a business name is like the hardest thing I've ever
Was
done.
this just stuck?
Took me like 6 months, and I just like drove my friends and my family crazy because like every time I saw them, I was like, "What about this name? What's the name about this name?" I was nearly going to be Screeve at one point, which is like the Scottish word for right, and I was like, "That's so bad." Screeve. But I like convinced myself that's what it was going to be, and then like one of my little brothers called me Juju for a while when he was younger, and it was like a placeholder name, and I was like, I need to get an Instagram, that'll do it for now, and then it just stuck.
It's quite cool.
I wanted something that was like memorable and didn't make like Stewart Bookbinding just sounds like I'm an old dude making marble paper and like brown leather books.
And
that's
you've
not
got
my
that same letterhead above your shop window that every single, like, Stuart Book and Sons, that kind of thing.
And like that's not my thing at all. Like I want to make books that are a bit mad and contemporary, and so it does the job. It's memorable. People think my name's Juju. They call me Juju.
Yeah.
That's fine. I've been called worse. I don't mind it.
Wicked.
Yeah, so that's it. There's no big story. It doesn't mean it.
But JUJU Books online, JUJU Books,
Yep.
Instagram's your main platform.
I'm on
That's where
Instagram.
we know you from, isn't it?
Yes. on
Not do
Instagram.
TikTok book dancing.
I do
anything
not.
like
I
that.
can't be arsed. I'm not on Twitter. It scares me. People seem mean there. I'm on Facebook if I must be.
Wicked.
Nice.
Mate, thanks so much. Thanks for inviting us in. We got to unwrap
It's been a pleasure.
some courses, got to see some books, get a greater understanding for what bookbinding is.
Yeah, it's
Go
been a
forth
good
and bind.
insight.
Go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Oh man, I've got too many rabbit holes. Too many rabbit holes. Need ferrets. Honestly, it's been quite fascinating. I don't know what you thought of bookbinding, but I didn't realise I looked at it from the practicality of this is a book, this needs to be bound. I had an understanding for it, but I didn't have an appreciation for how much of it is like you doing the covering, you doing the, what is the story in the book, and the cover needs to represent that, which makes total sense, but I just didn't connect those two things.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's interesting to know like what the perception of bookbinding is from outside of it, because it's like a vessel for whatever the contents is.
That's a great way to describe it.
It's like elevate and protect it and
like
represent it.
I think if anything, that's something that maybe needs to be concentrated on more, the fact that bookbinding isn't just the binding. It's really hard with such a literal title.
I know, man.
Book binding. I am binding a book. But you're not really, are you? You're, as you just said, you're creating a vessel for
like designer bookbinding is like what's mostly used, but that doesn't really do it all either.
No.
Bookmaker,
Bookmaker.
but that's a bookies. So
Exactly.
don't ask me for a tip, I've got no idea.
Wicked. We'll
Aye.
think of it.
Yeah.
Think of it at some point, and we'll come back when we've got the idea, when we know what it is. We'll wrap it up at that.
Let's do it.
Mate, thanks again.
Awesome.
It's
My
been wicked.
pleasure.
It's
Thank
been
you
a
guys
hoot.
very much.
It's not felt like a podcast at
It's
all.
been lovely.
Aye. It's